Thank you. Is it on? Thank you. Be seated. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming out here today to support Mialynn as she gives her senior presentation. We're so excited about it. She's worked really hard and just grateful to be here today. My name is Corey Telshow, and I have had the distinct pleasure of having Mialynn as my senior assistant this year. I'm about 99% sure I've worked for her all year long, and that's okay. She's taught me a lot. And joining me today on the panel is Ms. Mary Henson and Mr. AJ Perea. If you haven't been to a senior presentation before, what happens is she will give her paper, and then she'll come over here and face us all scary people at this table, and we'll get to ask her some questions. But before we get started, let me say a quick prayer for Mia. O Heavenly King, O Comforter, the Spirit of Truth, you are in all places, and you are here with us today. We thank you so very much for Mialynn. Thank you for her heart. Thank you for her willingness to come out here today and do hard things and share her heart with us. We pray for peace and calm and just to have a good time on this panel. In your very precious name we pray. Amen.
Neurodiversity, when embraced, can dramatically improve all aspects of life. Neurodiversity, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is defined as individual differences in brain functioning being regarded as normal variations within the human population. By learning about neurodiversity, we can better understand one another and how each other's brains function. And we can better empathize with and accommodate others if we know how each other's brains or thought processes work. Throughout this presentation, we'll be looking at what neurodiversity is, various types of neurodivergence, strengths and challenges that come with them, and common misconceptions about neurodivergence, which will address the fact that God intentionally created people to be neurodiverse. We'll be discussing this in order to show that learning about and embracing neurodiversity can improve all aspects of life for both neurotypical and neurodivergent people. Neurodivergence is not an official diagnosis, but a non-medical term that describes those whose brains function or develop differently. For this presentation, I read Divergent Mind, Thriving in a World That Wasn't Designed for You by Janera Nirenberg. In this book, the author states that neurodiversity is the understanding whereby mental differences are viewed simply as they are and not judged as better or worse, normal or abnormal. Neurodivergent is a term that describes individuals whose differences in their brain functions affect how their brains work. These differences lead to both many strengths and challenges that are not present in those who do not have such differences. The term that describes those who do not have these differences is neurotypical. Included in the neurodiversity umbrella are things such as autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, of which we will focus on during this presentation. Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental disability which is caused by differences of the brain. It is called a spectrum disorder due to the wide variety of types and traits experienced with it. And in recent years, there's autistic disorder and Asperger's syndrome have been combined into this singular diagnosis. Autism affects all aspects of life for an autistic person, all the way down to the way their brains function and they process information or sensory input. It affects how one learns, behaves, communicates, interacts with others. ASD is characterized by difficulties with social communication and interaction, and restricted or repetitive behaviors or interests. Terms and euphemisms used to refer to disabilities have changed greatly over the years due to negative and harmful connotations as they insinuate or are due to how they stigmatize people. Instead of using terms or euphemisms such as special needs, language has changed to a person with a disability. In regards to needs of a person, and the terms high and low support needs have been adopted instead. Autistic people have varying levels of support needs. Some have more advanced socialization and communication skills. Others may come across as blunt, rude, or even be nonverbal. They often exhibit restricted or repetitive movements due to stimming behaviors, which are self-soothing movements or behaviors. These are things such as hand flapping and complex finger movements, and jumping, rocking, and many more. These things are all done to relieve stress or negative emotions, and to gain or reduce sensory input, or to express positive emotion, or for enjoyment. Autism is often misdiagnosed as mental illness or some other disability due to but it is better to think of autism as a neurological difference, and the same goes for all other forms of neurodiversity, including ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders found in people. It is typically discovered during childhood, but is often missed in some individuals until they are adults. It is marked by an ongoing pattern of inattention and/or hyperactivity and impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. The diagnostic term ADD has in recent years been added to the diagnosis of ADHD. And there are 3 different subtypes of ADHD: hyperactive and impulsive type, inattentive type, and mixed or combined type. And it is important to understand that ADHD is not deficit of attention, but rather a challenge of regulating it at will or on demand. People with ADHD often have too much attention, and just not at the socially acceptable times and found in our highly regimented and structured societies. ADHD is not an inability to focus as many believe it to be, but rather an inability to regulate what that focus is geared towards. Why do so many people have to wait until they're adults to figure out that they're neurodivergent? Why does anybody not even suspect that that person is neurodiverse until they are adults? This is due to a concept called masking, which refers to an unconscious or conscious effort to hide or cover oneself from the world, as an attempt to accommodate others and coexist. The goal of it is to hide or mask the neurodivergent traits behind a facade of neurotypical ones. And this is done to better fit in with neurotypical society, to reduce bullying, fear of stigma, judgment and rejection, or a want to appear normal. Masking can be forcing oneself to follow the neurotypical rules of conversation, things like small talk, questions with short, polite responses, and even reciprocating questions. Or it can also be hiding one's feelings, things making eye contact even when you feel uncomfortable doing so, or hiding stems. This is not a healthy approach for neurodiverse individuals, and will only leave them feeling drained, exhausted, and burnt out. Many neurodivergent people only start masking, though, after they are taught by others that the things they experience are not considered normal. As a person learns more about their neurodivergence and just how heavily they rely on their mask, they are able to slowly start taking down that mask and to become the person that they truly are. For this presentation, I interviewed Cheryl Willoughby, who is a top neurodiversity counselor in the Permian Basin. And one of the things we talked about is the stigma surrounding neurodiversity. Often, when a neurodiverse person has masked for the majority of their life, but then discover and reveal their neurodivergence, people will respond with comments such as, "But you're just weird," or "But you're so normal." Many people do not want to define the things that they call weird about a person as neurodivergence, because then, if they continue to make fun of a person for their weirdness, and then they are making fun of disability. This is all due to the stigma and stereotypes surrounding neurodiversity. Stereotypes get in the way and are far from representing reality. Conversely, neurodiversity of society shares. Terms such as autism and ADHD were once only used to describe the most profoundly obvious cases, but as the understanding of them increases, as we are able to destigmatize neurodiversity as a whole, thus fully embracing neurodivergent people as they truly are. While there are other people who view autism, ADHD, or other types of neurodivergence as a disease or illness that needs to be cured, I argue that this is not the case. These people think that there's some way to get rid of the neurodivergence, that then their kids will be normal. But what is normality? What is normal for one person might be not normal for another. For me, neurodiversity is as normal as I grew up in a neurodiverse family. I did not know that for the longest time that the way my family functioned was not considered normal by the vast majority of society. It is impossible to cure neurodivergence because there's nothing to be cured. There's nothing wrong with neurodivergent people. They just function and process things differently than those who are neurotypical. People who believe neurodivergence is a disease think that they can cure the communication difficulties, sensory sensitivities, difficulties with focus, and many other challenges that come with being neurodivergent. But to get rid of those things would be to get rid of the strengths too. There's a beauty in some things that I don't necessarily think that we'd want to cure. While it might be nice to find some way to get rid of the challenges, to get rid of those challenges would get rid of the strength that those challenges allow a neurodivergent person. The way that a person thinks or processes things is a large part of their personality or the way their personality is shaped. And curing neurodivergence entirely would be to strip away a neurodivergent person's personality and individuality away from them. And neurodivergent people are different for a reason, and they always have and they always will be. These people are born with neurodiversity. It is not something that needs to be cured, nor can it be. And if it were, they would still not wish to do so. Genesis 1:27 states, "So God created man in his own image, in the image of God he created him." God created humanity with all of its differences to be like him. He intentionally created all people and therefore intentionally created people to be neurodiverse. Had he created humanity so that our brains would all function in the same way, we would not be an accurate reflection of his image. And God is not finite, he is infinite. There must be a difference between each individual human being so that we reflect his infinity. If everyone functioned in the same way, there'd be no one to think outside the box set by neurotypical people. And there would be no one to introduce new ideas. God created human beings so that we can. God created human beings to be different so that we can all find our own way to him. He purposely created neurodivergent individuals so that we can and have people who see things differently. Restricted interests or special interests allow neurodivergent people to become the experts in that field of interest. And in an interview with some autistic people about the strengths that they attribute to their autism, the most commonly reported traits are the ability to hyperfocus, attention to detail, good memory, and creativity, as well as personal qualities such as honesty, loyalty, and empathy for animals or other autistic people. While these challenges surrounding focus that were previously stated can make it difficult for an individual with ADHD to focus in work, school, or any other situation requiring sustained focus, they can also lead to many strengths. Hence, this constant swirling thoughts in the ADHD brain can lead to a high level of creativity, great critical thinking skills, and grant a unique perspective on things. They are often unafraid to try new things, curious and not afraid to ask questions, unafraid of challenges, and might even enjoy taking risks. God has a different plan for each individual person, and regardless of who they are. Neurodiverse people are all a part of God's intentionally created plan. Neurodivergence is not a new thing. Neurodiverse people have always existed, even though the terms neurodivergence, autism, and ADHD are still relatively new. Mental health professionals and historians have looked at several historical figures and found that many of them seem to have been neurodivergent via an analysis of their written behavior, her witness reports, and written works. In the senior elective astronomy, and throughout many other courses, we study Albert Einstein and his contributions to science. He is well known for his general and special theories of relativity, among other contributions. In studying Einstein's personal life, historians and psychologists have theorized that he was neurodivergent. Specifically, they believe that he had dyslexia, autism, and ADHD. But the most common theory, though, is that Einstein had autism. And as a child, he had delayed speaking, as he did not speak until he was 3 years old. When he did begin speaking, he would often repeat words or sentences to himself, which is a common phenomenon amongst autistic people known as echolalia. From an early age, Einstein did not care to socialize with or be around other people, often being described as a child as shy, lonely, and withdrawn from the world. He once explained, I do not socialize with it's because social encounters would distract me from my work, and I really only live for that. And it would shorten even further my very limited lifespan. He's also described as having a strong adherence to routine and certain types of organization. All of these traits, especially when grouped together like this, are commonly attributed to autism. And due to this, it can almost definitively be said that Albert Einstein had autism. Other historical figures who may have been neurodivergent are people such as Mozart, Sir Isaac Newton, and Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Unfortunately, it is practically impossible to fully prove that any of them were actually neurodivergent. But based on evidence shown throughout their lives and the current diagnostic criteria, we can safely conclude that they were most likely neurodiverse. This goes to show that neurodiverse people are and always have existed, and are intentionally created by God to be so. Through the knowledge of what neurodiversity, autism spectrum disorder, and ADHD are, traits and characteristics specific to each and shared by them, strengths and challenges that they cause, and the stigma and controversy surrounding them, we can see just how little about neurodivergence that the vast majority of society knows. By understanding the fact that God intentionally created people to be neurodiverse, and historically always have been, we can see that learning about and embracing neurodiversity can improve all aspects of life for all. Hopefully this has helped increase your understanding of what neurodiversity is and will promote better communication between you and others of the same and opposite neurotypes. If someday society will reach a point where it fully embraced and understands neurodiversity. But until then, presentations are such as this are necessary to bridge the gap between neurotypical and neurodivergent individuals. Thank you.
Take a drink. All right. Well done. Well done. I think it's probably an occupational hazard. The kids get up there and the first thing they do is start slurping the water when they sit down. I think it's kind of hot up there, honestly. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. I'm going to grab this little fidget thing over here and mess with it because it's cool. All right. Good job, Mialynn.
Thank you.
Got a couple of questions. I'm going to squish it. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for providing these.
She's your idea, right? She's like, fidget toys. Yes. Very good. All right, so we'll start with a couple of easy ones. So what's happening next year? What do you want to do?
So there's been some recent complications with that. So I was planning on going to University of Houston to study architecture, but they emailed me a little too, they didn't email me, they just put it on my self-service portal, but they kind of let me know a little too late that I wasn't actually accepted to the architecture program. So either I'll be going to University of Houston for the first year and reapplying for the architecture program, or I'll be going to Texas Tech for their architecture program.
Okay. Well, thank you. Universities are sort of known for doing things like that. So if that's what you want, you just keep going, right? Keep applying. You'll get there. So, I love this. I think Mialynn is a little prepared for this topic. I counted 61 sources that she consulted for this.
Jeez, I didn't know there was that many.
I so wish we had more time to listen to the entirety of your research because it's pretty impressive. Are you sure you're not going to go into, psychiatry or?
Probably not.
Won't
but
jinx it for you.
If I need a backup, I know this is
work. You might be a little talented here. I'm just going to say. So very, very nice. So, why are you passionate about this topic?
So about a little over honestly nearly 2 years ago at this point, I started having a lot more sensory sensitivities, and I started trying to figure out why do I have this? What's going on? And I started researching neurodivergence and autism, and kind of started realizing, hey, wait a minute, this stuff makes sense for me. This might actually be me, but it wasn't. Funnily enough, it wasn't until Bad Patch as season 2 started releasing last January, that I started realizing, oh wait, I think I actually have autism, because those first two episodes, I was sitting there trying not to flap my hands the entirety of those episodes, and then my mom and dad left the house afterwards, and I spent a good 30 minutes pacing the kitchen and flapping my hands.
You mean we're not supposed to do that?
Hands while thinking about it.
Because that's that I was there with you. I totally was there with you.
Yeah.
So exciting.
And I got a diagnosis with ADHD and attentive type, so I just started realizing, hey, wait a minute, I need to know more about this. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to do so.
Wow. And how hard is it because I think we have people who walk among us who are undiagnosed.
Yeah, I
take a while?
It's difficult to get a diagnosis. For autism, I don't technically have a diagnosis, but my counselor and psychiatrist have said, yeah, this makes sense for you. But you have to have a PhD to diagnose autism. and there's only one person in the state who can diagnose children with autism, and her wait list is 1.5 years long. So it's like pretty difficult to get in, and even like to just get in and then to be on the wait list with that. With ADHD, it's still pretty difficult to get diagnosed. A lot of times with both of them, it's people who are the stereotypical 6-year-old boy who likes trains and dinosaurs, hers for autism, and 8-year-old boy who's like the hyperactive ADHD type. So it's difficult for women or people who just don't have the like stereotypical types to who get diagnosed in the first place.
Yeah, and I can see that it's probably changed a lot as the years have gone on. Can you hear me now? Okay. I think I may have told you this at one point. My dad, and I think back you talked about, and we're going to talk about the family because I think that it just spoke to me a lot because my dad couldn't sit through a movie. We would go to the movie theater and he up, gone, back, sit down, watch another 5 minutes or so, up, gone, back. And he'd grown up in New York City and he was a good Catholic altar boy because he'd gotten kicked out of the choir because he couldn't sit still. And he went to Catholic school and the priest there called him the flea. And, you think about a guy like that, and he was born in 1939. And so he grew up. In fact, one of his teachers told him, "You'll never be anything because you can't sit down."
Wow.
And, yeah. And so this can never be anything kid learned to fly jets and did hundreds of missions in Vietnam and was a master pilot. Got 3 college degrees, became an engineer, and retired as a 2-star general. And I look at him, the flea, and I think, yeah. Just because you process things a little bit differently, doesn't mean that you're not capable of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my hero had ADHD for sure. Right?
Yeah.
So I love it that you bring out neurodiversity as a way that God created people. Do you think our society is getting a little bit better with handling people with neurodiversity?
Yeah, I think definitely society has gotten a lot better, and used to, they got locked in like a mental health hospital and experimented on for just being neurodivergent. But now it's like, if this understanding is still not quite there yet, but there's a lot more understanding of what neurodiversity is and a lot more accommodations that can be given to a neurodiverse person just to get through everyday life.
Yeah, I think just perception too. I mean, I remember walking around the grocery store with my mom and some kid would be having a fit and my mom would be like, "Oh, that kid, what a brat." And now I don't think that way. I think, "Oh, what's going on with that kid?"
Yeah.
I think our society has come a little bit farther than that. I could hog this microphone all day long, but I won't. I'm going to pass it on. Good job.
Thank you.
Hi, Mialynn.
Hello.
Great job.
Thank you.
So the first question I have for you is about your braid.
Oh.
So how long have you been growing it out, and then how often do you change the colors, and how long does that take?
So I started growing this in 9th grade. That was the COVID year, so I was at home all the time, and I was just bored in class one time. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a Padawan braid. And I decided to keep it in. I'm actually going to be cutting it after graduation. And next Saturday. I'll be taking a video, but no one else is going to be around whenever I'm doing it because I can't handle that stress. But I rebraid it every few weeks or so. Sometimes I wait a little too long and it gets closer to a month or so, but and it takes a while. I redid it last night. Let's see. How long does that take? It takes maybe an hour and a half sometimes.
Wow. Oh, all the free time.
Depending on how shaky my hands are that day.
Yeah, gotcha. That's fun. I was just curious, so I wanted to ask. One of the things I wanted to talk about is just schools and how it seems like a lot of schools just don't necessarily highlight a lot of different ways people learn and interact with the world. And so what ways do you think that schools can adapt to better help or highlight different skill sets and ways that neurodivergent people learn?
So like the typical lecture style, like classroom way that typical like public schools have unfortunately for like neurodivergent people, it doesn't really work quite right. I talked a little bit about this in my paper I talked a little bit about how the Socratic method here at MCA and is that a lot more helpful because classes take the form of discussion. So how people can the students can ask as many questions as they need to be able to understand. And I guess the way other schools that typically do have that more lecture style classes allow more questions and let students ask as many questions as they need to understand, because there's the single definition might not work for a person who is neurodivergent. Whether it's they want to dive deep into the topic, or whether it's because they just simply do not understand the way it was worded. It's just their brains can't process it. I should be saying our. But yeah, so I just think allowing people to ask more questions, explaining why they're doing things, and especially maybe allowing more hands-on sort of things, especially for the people who have ADHD and have the hyperactive type. They need to be able to move around or have their have hands-on sort of learning. So I guess maybe more of that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. It also seems like that a lot of neurodivergent people are just really one of their strengths is they're really good at letting whatever they love bubble to the surface, where most other people that's just repressed to some degree. And so why is that valuable to just to some degree wear what you love and have it just be visible to everyone?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a lot. It goes a lot with special interests of the neurodivergent person, or even hyperfixations. It kind of goes along with that. Hang on, give me a sec. It's we get so excited about something, and we just find it so interesting that we want to be able to share it with others. Wearing geeky T-shirts, just showing others, hey, I like this too, and we want to tell other people about it because we want to tell others about the joy that it gives, because we know it gives us joy. So we want to tell others about it, so that they can experience the same amount of joy that we do from it. And I guess it's just important to let people show that, because it's really a big way of how neurodivergent people will relate with others. It's just talking about their interests. Yeah.
I think that's important too, and I think it's to our detriment sometimes. Kind of like what you were saying about your relative, that it's just he's cool once he can fly a jet plane, but before that he's not. And so just to be able to, I don't know, the shared joy in the way that God made people different is important to see and recognize. Why do you think we want people to be like us? Why is that so comfortable?
It's predictable. If people process things the same way you do, you're more likely to be able to relate to them. I don't know if I'm stealing another person's question with this. Okay. One thing I talked a little bit about in my paper is there's something called the double empathy gap, which is essentially neurodivergent people are able to easily talk to and communicate with other neurodivergent people, and the neurotypical people are able to communicate easily with their neurotypical people. But when you try to cross that gap, there's an issue. You want how to talk with the side that you know, because you know the social rules. Neurodivergent people and neurotypical people have different social rules. So if you want to sometimes you want to talk with others who understand what the social rules are. It's just comfortable, just out of comfort and not having to try something new. I was going to say something else with that. I could go off onto the double empathy gap for a while, but
what are some practical ways to bridge the double empathy gap, or is that something that can be overcome, or how have you seen that be bridged effectively?
Neurodivergent people, most of the time whenever they talk with other people, someone will share that they've had an experience and they have the instinctual urge to want to tell the other that they also had that experience. So to like show them that, hey, I do relate to what you're saying. Hey, I understand. Or just to like kind of ask them, hey, is this what's going on? Am I understanding the situation correctly? Hey, but neurotypical conversation's not exactly like that. It's more just questions with short, polite responses. You're supposed to ask questions about experiences. Unprompted information is not really considered socially acceptable. And I guess, unfortunately, when neurodivergent people like mask really heavily, they try to act as if they're neurotypical and try not to just randomly spout information, but in their heads they're still running it through the scenarios of, or like relating it to other things. So it just leaves them exhausted because they've got two different conversations going on, one out loud, one in their head trying to make sure that they're relating to the experience correctly. Mm-hmm. Just leaves another way of masking, leaves people feeling drained, burnt out, and exhausted. And I guess maybe just normalizing that it doesn't have social, like conversations don't have to follow just a specific dynamic. They can kind of go all over the place. There can be unprompted information. There can still be questions, but like allowing people to, I don't know, just speak what's on their mind, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and that comes down to like actually caring about the other person in front of you, rather than wanting the interaction to go a certain way or wanting it to go the way that you expect. And so,
yeah,
I like that answer. Awesome. All right, I'm going to give the mic to Mr. Priya now.
Thank you, Mrs. Henson. Thank you, Mialynn.
Thank you.
I felt like I was reading a very well-researched scientific dissertation here. And,
it's definitely well-researched.
Yeah, it was awesome to behold and comprehend. And as I was reading it, I was like, man, how is she going to squeeze this into a 15-minute speech? And I guess maybe something that helped you is all those note cards out there. Can you describe to the audience who can't see them what's going on those note cards?
So first I had to reduce my paper because it was 16 pages long, and I had to reduce it to 9.
Do you know how many words that was? Henry started with?
It's like 3,100 or something.
Yeah, like the total document had like 62,000. 6,200, not 1,000. Sorry, that's a little too much. But that's also had the works cited. But
yep.
I had to cut out a lot of things.
You did.
And then those note cards up there, that's my entire speech, 9-page speech written on note cards, just taking out all the filler words, but just keeping the big words. I didn't exactly use that as like notes for this, but it helps me like memorize the speech a little better.
Yeah. So I have had the privilege of having you in a couple of classes, and when you guys come up to congratulate Mialynn, you should look at those notes because they are meticulous and detailed, and so is her paper if you ever get to flip through it. And what it felt like is like every homework assignment you turned in pre-cal and astronomy was like that.
Yeah.
So, how long I've always wondered this, and I guess I should ask you while I'm on the mic, how long did an astronomy homework take you to complete? Because every time you turned one in, I felt guilty.
Far too long. Depended on the night. Let's see, I always did it after I got back from robotics. I probably didn't get started till a little too late.
Okay.
Several hours most of the time. That was on the nights where I didn't get started till like 11:30 after robotics.
So, that's...
No, that's not your fault. That's...
I do remember a few times along the way going, you don't have to do this. And so are there things that as a dad or mom or as a tutor, if you see these kinds of tendencies, that you would advise us to help coach our children or our students to be different than thorough like you were, or should I just let you be you?
There's an element of letting a person be their self, but like also letting them know that they don't have to have all of that. For me, it was just kind of I wanted to be thorough. I wanted to have as much information as possible. I like on the astronomy assignments, I was just having a lot of fun. I got carried away with the time.
I get that.
But like, there's an element of trying to warn a person, like if they're staying up late doing their assignments, maybe tell them, hey, you don't have to have this much, or hey, you need to go to bed, or try to figure out some way to reduce the time. But also there's an element of letting them be their self and like process things the way they need to be able to understand, or the way they want to dive as deep into the topics that they want. And like, there's kind of a balance between protecting their health and mental and physical health, and also allowing them to pursue the interests that they would like.
It's like the golden mean, if you will.
Yes.
So many things that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. I'll pick a couple for time's sake, but you brought up one of my heroes, maybe my main hero, Einstein. Remind us of kind of what some of the markers were that historians have been able to kind of pinpoint to say that maybe he was also neurodivergent.
Hang on, let me just make sure I not misquoting. So it's like, he had delay speaking, not speaking until he was 3 years old, and then he would repeat words to himself over and over again, and echolalia.
Do you know what his first words were? This is one of my favorite. Maybe I don't think it's apocryphal. Yeah,
I remember researching. Yeah, I remember researching.
His first word was, the soup is too hot.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Like, full sentence. And it's like, he studied everybody speaking, and it was like...
Guess it's probably time for me to talk. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, what were some of the other markers for him?
Like, he didn't socialize with other people and did not want to be around other people a lot of times. And it's just because he wanted to, focus on his work. He's also had a strong adherence to routine in certain types of organization. Like, he had to have a specific daily routine every day. I can't remember what it exactly was, but I remember reading about it. It was a certain routine. It was his food had to be prepared in a certain way, all of that, and then certain areas had to be organized in this specific way.
That's enough. I think you captured it well enough. Do you think it? With his quirkiness, we'll just say that. Do you think he needed to be wired the way that he was in order to have the breakthrough discoveries that he had?
I kind of think so. His IQ is not related to your neurotype. You can have a high IQ whether you're neurotypical or neurodivergent. Okay. But I think the way that his brain was wired, the way it was wired differently, I think it helped him discover the things and process things to get to those discoveries. He's in a different way than he might have if he didn't have his brain didn't function in that way.
How do you think as a parent with a kid who thinks outside the box, what can parents do to help their kid thrive if they're an outside the box type thinker? And maybe it could be what have your parents done to help you?
Yeah. My parents did a lot of letting me pursue my interests, and allowing me to be creative. They honestly didn't try to stop me from pursuing things when I was curious. Encouraged me to ask questions, and as often as I could, and to dive deep into topics. One thing sometimes parents will do with their kids when they take them to developmental therapy is try to make them suppress their stims, and it's make them to where they're not allowed to stim at all. And my parents never did that. They always allowed me to stim. I remember when I was younger, I'd see a cute cat and my hands would start flapping. And that's literally how we got one of our cats, because she did something cute while she was at the vet. And I think my hands started flapping. And my parents were like, oh, we have to get that cat now. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just kind of allowing the kid to pursue the things that they would like to and ask as many questions as they want to or need to. To not restrict them from there's just a certain element of allowing people to pursue things within. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this.
I think you said a lot of meaningful things, so thank you. Do you think there's any kind of correlation between the number of nerdy t-shirts you have and whether you're neurodivergent? You mentioned that to Mrs. Henson, and I'm just realizing, like, I have a lot of nerdy shirts that I really enjoy, so I don't know if that's any kind of tip-off for me or not.
I think there's a correlation, like, when you're, I think, this isn't a thing I have any research to back up, this is just a thing I've noticed, but when you're neurodivergent, like, you want to surround yourself with things that are to your interest. It's because it brings you happiness, brings you joy. Hey, and like wearing nerdy t-shirts brings you happiness, brings you joy, and it also shows others, hey, this is a thing I like. But also, it not following the rules of our structured society, like not following fashion rules, rather doing and wearing what you like and what you think is cool.
That's great. Well, that gives me some justification for all the cool socks that I own too.
Yeah.
All right. I don't have too many nerdy t-shirts. I'm going to have to fix that. I do
Have you seen your Office Miss T?
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, I got to say, I've known you for a while now in the context of robotics, and I think we've had a great time. And I feel like there's a lot of robotics people here today. What is it about robotics that made it something that you love?
I think part of it was I always loved like building things and coming up with ideas and like designing things, but there was let me think. Sorry, just figure out exactly how to say this. Like, it felt like people there understood me. He like, at least to a certain degree, like they understood how I was thinking. Like, I didn't really have to explain myself like on the way I was processing things or the way I was just coming to ideas and stuff. It would be like I don't know, it just felt like everybody there kind of understood me. And as time has gone on, like it's definitely felt like people there understood me. It's funny, neurodivergent people tend to flock together. They tend to accidentally find each other, or kind of have a life friend group, kind of realize, oh wait, as each one of us discovered we're neurodivergent.
Well, there is an inordinate amount of Rubik's Cubes in the bus barn at all times.
And everybody's fidgeting with them.
And the cool thing about robotics is we can make our own fidget toys.
Yep.
And we have.
Or you bring a pocket full of fidget toys and you end up passing them out to your entire team.
That's right. And we go to competitions and there's other teams passing out fidget toys. So it's pretty great. I have to say, I have to ask you one thing though. Who is your favorite neurodivergent character in Star Wars?
I mean, we're gonna have to go with Tech from the Bad Batch. We're gonna have to go with it. We're gonna have to go with him because he's the only one that he's actually technically confirmed to be neurodivergent because he was confirmed in that one episode.
Yes, and a fantastic character. Well, and we were thinking when you were talking about how God makes people neurodivergent, I have to say, whatsoever you find to do it heartily, and you do. Everything you do is with excellence. And I'm very proud of you, and it's been a fun ride, and it's been awesome. And you've taught me a lot about how to push myself to do things with excellence, and I do appreciate that. And plus, put up with me all day long. So I think it's time for you to have the mic.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So the question I want to ask you guys is. And this is for all of you. Have you ever thought that you were neurodivergent? And if so, what is one moment that really made it seem that really like sticks out to you as like a thing that kind of points towards that or a neurodivergent moment? And if you haven't, is there a specific thing that just like I wouldn't point you towards that? I don't really know. I didn't think about the other side of it.
Do I have to go first? Oh boy. It's too easy for you. You know this one?
Just trying to buy you all a little time here. So let's see. I think the most recent time that I've thought I was perhaps neurodivergent was in this conversation. The most recent time prior to that was when I read your thesis. And, you know, where I'm reading through the passage about ADHD and going, are you reading my mail right now? And so, and it's actually maybe been within the last couple of years that that's kind of started to get on my radar a little bit. And it's certainly, I don't know, it's, you know, you mentioned a lot of these kinds of things in your paper, but it's maybe discouraging on some level because it's like, I've always kind of had in my mind what those people are like or whatever. But it's also freeing, you know, to just go, maybe it is okay that I am wired this way, and there can be a lot of really good things that come from it. Certainly there's things that aren't good that come from it too. As you said, executive dysfunction is one of them. It's like, you know, deadlines and all of those things and prioritizing. And so, but yeah, it was just, it's encouraging to hear, there's a place to belong, and there's a lot of good that can come from just the way that God has wired you to be. So yes, it was actually a side comment by one of my students this year that was like, maybe she's on to something. And I think you have to be kind of in a place that you can receive that, and certainly people can point that out in unkind ways, but yeah, it does take a certain maturity and perspective to be able to take that in stride that either you have or you need other mature people in your life to kind of help you absorb that kind of news when you receive it. So.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that I've questioned that for myself, but kind of similar to what Mr. Priya was saying, that over time I've just become more comfortable with my interests and kind of like wearing those on my sleeve, and just following, I don't know, what sparks my interest at that given moment. So I enjoy teaching and learning. I also bartend. I have a background in aviation. I play guitar.
Wow.
I write poetry. And so it's just like a lot of different things that I'm interested in. And I've just realized that, like, I don't know, I like giving myself time to just like dive into all of those, and that's usually what I use the summer for when I'm not here, is just to like take a really long look into something that I've been wanting to for the whole school year. And so I think sometimes that can like feel like isolating to some degree, or it's just like difficult to find other people who want to talk about those things or who are as interested in those things. But I've just become more comfortable, kind of like what Mr. Priya was saying, that it's just a part of the way that God made me, and that those desires are in me like for a reason, and so to be open to like pursuing them. And so that's what I would say.
All right, you've already mentioned my office. So I feel like that's kind of a clue. I think I have the messiest office of anybody at MTA, I'm pretty sure.
I think the most cluttered, at least.
For sure. I think I do believe I'm neurodivergent in a few ways, but mostly because I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I keep going back to school, and I know that I have to have deadlines, because I'll just jump around and do things instead of, writing my papers. But I also think that the older I've gotten, the more I realize, well, that's okay, because that's who I am. And I think the coolest part about growing up and not old is having a zest for life. And I feel like the older I've gotten, the more that's who I am. So, well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Good job. And I'm going to ask Mr. Priya to close this.
I actually think you might be in a three-way tie with myself and Mr. Littleton for the most cluttered in the office.
Oh, yeah.
You might win.
But, before I pray, I'd like to just leave us with an Einstein quote that says, if a cluttered desk is the sign of a cluttered mind, then what is an empty desk the sign of?
Nice.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
All right, let's close in prayer. Father God, thank you for this beautiful day and this beautiful message from this beautiful soul. Thank you for the ways that you have uniquely wired Mialynn and really all of us, God. We want to be pleasing to you and to embrace the way that you've made each of us. Please, God, continue to transform us each more into the likeness of your Son. Guide Mialynn's steps in her future. And thank you for this powerful message that she delivered today. We love you in Christ's name. Amen.